Southwest Region Executive Director, or previously was the Southwest Region Director of the American Jewish Congress. Currently, he's the President and CEO of the Southwest Jewish Conference. He's dedicated to educating the community on Israel and the Middle East, threats to the freedom and rights guaranteed by our U.S. Constitution, and celebrates cultural diversity and interfaith diversities. And the reason why he was a few minutes late this evening is he just flew back from Israel to get the latest update on what's going on. Actually, he got lost. I ask you, please give a welcome hand to Colonel Gil Elan.
Actually, I was delayed because Bibi was on the phone asking me about the coalition. Okay, this will work. When I was asked to come and speak about the, let's see, oh, there we go. Wheel.
The wheel.
Okay. I was at. Can we kill these lights over here?
Yeah, let me turn some lights off. No.
Somebody's got a gun here to shoot.
It's Collin County.
Everybody
Everybody
be able to.
Collin County, everybody has a gun.
I know.
No, turn
off
the front. Turn off the front.
Yeah, you don't have to see me.
That's good.
Okay, first of all, I apologize for being late. My GPS was berserk here as soon as I hit Craig Ranch. But I told I wanted to stay here till midnight, so no problem. We can sort of that. I've got to do till about 4 o'clock tomorrow morning when I get up to check the news. But anyway, what's behind the Middle East crisis? Well, defining the Middle East is not so difficult. But what crisis are we talking about? Anybody? I mean, there are a lot of crises. So I'm assuming that it's what's behind everything that's going on in the Middle East today. Everything was so nice and perfect until a few years ago, and suddenly, I don't know, an Arab Spring started, and a few other things started with little terrorism, and now it's totally chaotic. And a lot of it's not what you think. Now, I was given a number of topics. For example, to talk about, yeah?
Could you give us a little bit of history behind the whole Middle East crisis?
I certainly will.
That's what
perspective going back many years.
I'll give you a perspective going back to before World War I. How's that?
Oh, farther than
So far than that also. But anyway, I was given a list of topics. I looked at them and I said, okay, let's see if any of them are really relevant to the crisis. For example, can the problem be traced? I've literally copied it from the email. Can the problem be traced back? Do I need the microphone? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I mean, this is great if you want to pump oil. Can the problems be traced back to the Abraham story of Isaac and Ishmael and their continued struggle? No. Not really. I mean, there's some element in it, but okay. How about the religious significance of rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem? Well, first of all, nobody's building the temple right now. Gotta wait for Messiah to come, other things have to happen. But no, I would say that is not the reason for the conflict in the Middle East right now, the main core reasons. At least the main 5 core reasons. The modern Jewish state resulting from the Balfour Declaration. Now, was this a question or did somebody wanted to talk about this? I'm assuming it was a question that had to do with the promise. Yeah. Actually, the story of the Balfour Declaration is very, very interesting. Those of you who don't know, after World War I, when the Turkish Empire, the sick man of Europe at the time, basically collapsed, and suddenly all these areas, there weren't countries in those days, there were areas, fell in the hands of the conquerors, and it was kind of divided amongst them. Italy got Abyssinia, Britain got a lot chunk of the whole thing had to do with oil. Because just before and slightly during World War I, there was an organization called the PEF, the Palestine Exploration Foundation, or Fund, some people call it the Fund, which was made up of geologists, rock experts, well, geologists, and British intelligence. And they discovered, they came up with a report and said, hey guys, you know, in the area that used to be Persia, there's a lot of oil. And in the area that used to be Mesopotamia, there's a lot of oil. Now, in the area of the Arabian Peninsula, there's a lot of oil. So let's make sure that however we cut and slice and dice the old Turkish Empire, we get the oil. Why? Because who was, after World War I, the Undersecretary of State for the colonies, responsible for the countries? It was a guy called Winston Churchill. But what was his job during World War I? He was First Lord of the Admiralty. And he started a process at the time of converting the British ships from from coal to oil. And suddenly all this oil was, so they want to make sure they had the oil. But one of the guys that helped the British win the war, at least not just win the war, survive the war. Britain had a big problem. It was running out of ammunition. It was running out of gunpowder, and one of the main parts of gunpowder is, as you know, acetone. Now, acetone, up until then, was imported from South America. Right? Right. You don't have to complain. Trust me, because and the German U-boats were doing a number on the tankers and on everything coming across the Atlantic. And they were running out of acetone, and they were running out of gunpowder. And, you know, the Turks and the Germans, they were pretty much getting stronger at this time. So there was a call that went out to the scientific community of Great Britain. Guys, we know that some of you have created in the laboratories synthetic acetone, and it works in gunpowder. But it's very expensive. Can you figure out a way to do it cheaper? Well, one scientist working in Great Britain at the time, in London at the time, his name was Chaim Weizmann. And he was a scientist. And he had developed one of the processes, and he kind of very quickly with his students adapted it and came up with a way to create very cheaply large quantities of synthetic acetone. Well, long story short, the World War I ended, and they came to Weizmann afterwards. They said, "Hey, we'd like to reward you. What would you like? We can give you a, do you want a knighthood? Do you want a lordship? Do you want a castle in Spain, in Scotland or something? What do you want? We'll give you. Look, you guys know who I am. I'm the head of the World Zionist Organization. You know what my people want. You know, all we want is you are now in charge of Palestine, amongst everything else, because the League of Nations at the time had granted Britain the mandate over the whole area of Jordan and Egypt and Palestine at the time, Iraq, oil. So he said, all we want is to go back home and a little strip of that area that you now have a whole mandate and you control. And he said, that's what you want? I said, yeah. No knighthood? No. No money? £1 million? No. So, since Chaim Weizmann was not a British citizen, I think it was the Secretary of State at the time, Lord Balfour, Arthur Balfour, wrote a letter to the then head of the Jewish community in England, Lord Balfour. And he basically said, lines, Her Majesty's government, Victoria, Her Majesty's government views favorably the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, on its traditional homeland, historical homeland, without any prejudice to the other people living in the area. And that was the Balfour Declaration. So Israel was not created, or didn't even result of the Balfour Declaration, but it started a process. It kind of ripped the Zionists. And of course, as a result of World War II, the League of Nations collapsed and the United Nations was created. They kind of readapted. But the thing was that was the Balfour Declaration. The British government that was responsible now, finally, over the whole area that used to be the Turkish Empire, including Palestine, agreed that this would be. Problem was that the governor in Egypt at the time, a guy called Uthman, he had promised the exact same stretch of land to to the Sharif of Mecca, Hussein bin Ali. And Hussein bin Ali, remember Lawrence of Arabia? You saw Lawrence of Arabia, right? Okay, that was that sheik, little sheik, and then that helped Lawrence, and Lawrence went with his sons. Ali, who was played by Omar Sharif, Abdallah, who was played by, I can't remember who played Abdallah, but Faisal was played by Sir John Gielgud before he became Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you go back and you see the movie, you rent it, watch it on Netflix, it's really good. Anyway, so, that was the Balfour Declaration. But all it meant was, okay, maybe now we've got a chance, maybe there will be. It took a long time after that before we actually got a state. So the modern Jewish state did not result from the Balfour Declaration. It resulted from the fact that the Zionist movement had been established beforehand, that Weitzman discovered a way to create synthetic acetone, and that the British were gracious enough to give a letter that said, okay, we agree. Problem was that this guy McMahon in Egypt had promised the exact same strips of land to the guy who helped launch Arabia. And there was a little bit of a debate about that and a fight about that, although Faisal, who took over the family after Hussein bin Ali died, he actually met with Chaim Weizmann. And they had a discussion, and they agreed, and they actually drew up a map where Israel is very similar to the Israel it is today. And they said we can work this out, we can do this. Anyway, so that was one of the reasons. Why is Israel so important to the U.S.? Well, we'll come to that as we go along, but let's just say that it's the only democracy in the Middle East. It's the only country that shares the same values. It's the only country that's been assisting America, and America assisting Israel for decades now. General Haig once said, before he said that he was in charge, he once said that several times that Israel is the cheapest aircraft carrier America has in the Middle East. True. In more ways than one. We can talk about that afterwards. Shiite versus Sunni. I'm going to come to that. And then I was asked to differentiate differences and similarities between the multiple Islamic terrorist groups, i.e. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, Boko Haram, Khorasan, Jamaat al-Fuqqa, etc. Okay, I'll do it as we will go on. And, of course, are there terrorist Islamic training camps in the U.S., and in particular in Sweeney, Texas? Easy answer to that, yes. Yes. And this is part of a network around the United States that was established by the by the Jamaat al-Fuqqa, which is an organization based in Pakistan, and they call, the one over here they call Muhammadburg, I think, and then the one in up in New York they call Islamburg, and there's other ones around which are private property, which are used because they're private property and they're in rural areas. You can train weapons training there, and yes, they are used to train various groups, and when we talk about the groups, we'll come back to that. Okay, so in that case, if none of those is the real root causes of the conflict in the Middle East, if you want to know what are the root causes, what maybe we'll be able to understand them more, let's talk about what are the root causes. Now, who thinks, no, not somebody who's been to my lectures, somebody who hasn't heard me before, who can say, what is the number one specific root cause of everything going on right now in the Middle East? Whether it's Yemen, Syria, Iraq, North Africa. Anybody want to give it a shot? Oil? Nah.
Is it religious indifference?
What?
Religious indifference.
Religious?
Indifference.
Indifference. No, I wouldn't use the word indifference.
I'd say religious competition, dominance.
Between
the sects of different areas of Islam. Two main areas in particular.
You're close. Okay, I'll put you guys out of your misery. It's essentially the number one cause of all conflicts in the Middle East today, and I mean all, is, wait for it, the Sunni Shiite rift. The Sunni Shiite, this is what Syria is all about, this is what Iraq is all about, this is what ISIS is doing. They're basically out there to murder every single Shiite that lives right now, and their families, and destroy their communities, and they've got a reason for that. The Sunnis won't let it happen. They've been persecuting the Shiites ever since the split happened between them, and they don't see any reason to stop doing that now. the split happened after Muhammad died. And without going into all the little nuances and details and fights, etc., basically, one group said that the successor, the Khalif, that's what it means. It means somebody who replaces somebody. The successor to Muhammad, the leader of this new movement of Islam and of the conquering forces of Islam, should be someone from within his family. And they noted that Ali, his cousin and son-in-law, because Ali married one of his daughters, Ali bin Abu Talib was considered, he was knowledgeable and Muhammad always praised him, and Ali led forces into battle, and he was considered like a swashbuckling, Errol Flynn type of character. He should be the one, the bloodline of Muhammad, because then his son will be, then Muhammad's grandson, etc. But the other group, the other faction, said no. It should be somebody who is knowledgeable from within the inner circle, the companions of Muhammad, the ones who followed him, the ones who actually wrote down eventually what the Quran said, what the Quran was. Because up till then he couldn't read or write, but up till then they just wrote it down on parchment or on bones or on a bark if they could find a tree. And it was all in kind of piles. It should be somebody who was knowledgeable, but was also a commander and a leader. Well, big argument, big fight between the two factions, and in the end the companions won. And the first caliph was one of the companions. And then he died. Most of them died relatively soon after taking power. And then he died. And again, the same argument. Now it's time for Ali. Nah, got voted out again. As a matter of fact, he got chased out. And he now had to escape and actually leave the Arabian Peninsula, the area of Mecca and Medina, and he went off to Iraq, to a town called Najaf, a city called Najaf, still there. And then that guy died, and then another one. Anyway, when the third caliph died, finally, not a young and swashbuckling Ali, but a pretty old, slow Ali, became the caliph. He never reached Mecca or Medina. He was murdered while praying in the mosque in Najaf. Most of the caliphs were murdered, actually, usually by somebody as an agent of one of their wives. But that's all. That's interesting to read. But anyway, so when Ali died, was murdered, the Ali faction said, okay, Ali's got two sons, Hassan and Hussein. And Hussein is the eldest, and he's the smartest, and he's the greatest, and he's the best. He should be the caliph. And the other said, no. What do you mean, no? No. There's a general up in Damascus. His name is Muawiyah. And Muawiyah is the one who's going to... We decided he's going to take over. So what do you mean? You had your fun, first three. We now had Ali. Now it should be the bloodline of Muhammad. And the other side said, no. Muhammad has always said this should not be a personality cult. Well, long story short, the Muawiyah took over, and there was kind of an agreement between him and Hussein that when he dies, Hussein will take over, and then it will be the bloodline. What they didn't know that Muawiyah had already appointed his son Yazidi as the next caliph. Okay. There's a battle at Karbala. Hussein rides up with his whole 700 soldiers and warriors, and they go to Karbala. Yazidi comes down with about 7,000. It was a massacre. Hussein was killed. His son was killed. There was a whole big thing. It's what they celebrate. When they cut themselves, that's the Battle of Karbala. Long story short, the Ali faction decided, we're out of here. We do not accept you're the usurpers. We should be the family, the Hulul Bat, they call themselves, the members of the household. We're the true followers, we're the true successors to Muhammad. Faction in Arabic is Shia. And so the Shia Ali broke away from the Sunnah, which means the pathway. And ever since then, they've been killing each other. Murder, I mean, that's just totally. They hate each other, they're killing each other, they pray differently. What ISIS, for example, is doing, and this is one of the things in ISIS, of course, is Sunni, What they're doing is they enter a village. They first of all take away they say, separate the Shiites. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is ask them, how do you pray? Do you pray like this or do you pray like this? With your hands at your side or your hands in front. But anyway, they can't go, and they just massacre them. They kill them. They don't give them an option. They just kill them. And they kill their families. And they kill their children. And they kill the wives. The Christians have given an option to convert to Islam or die, or to remain as second-class citizens, and the Yazidis aren't given an option either. The men are killed and the women are taken as prisoners and sex slaves, and the children. But this has been festering, and there is no way they will ever come together. No way. Devout Protestants will accept the Pope before they'll ever get together. Okay, it just can't happen. It's just beyond the realm of. But the Sunnis have been persecuting the Shiites because they were the majority all the time. And now suddenly, the Shiites not only have a country, Iran, which is the majority Shiite, but they have a chance of having nuclear weapons. Ooh. And they're expanding. They're using Hezbollah in Lebanon. Assad of Syria is a kind of breakaway group of the Shiites. He's not really Shiite, but that's how they call him Shiite. The Alawites. And they're kind of seeing, okay, now is our time. Now is our time to be at the hegemony of the whole Middle East. Now is our time to show that the world, that Islam is the true final religion, and Shiaism is a true version of Islam. Now, according to their philosophers, this will happen when the skies are red with fire and the streets of the cities run with blood. Nuclear war. But anyway, this is what started in Syria. This is what's going on in Iraq right now, etc. So that would be the number one cause, but that's not the only cause of the conflicts in the Middle East.
One clarification.
Yes.
The Sunni, is that the labor class, the farmers, the low class?
No.
And the Sunni, the upper aristocrats?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Totally different. I mean, they're Arabs, and they could be neighbors, and within the family you can have shit, but rare, but you can't have
But
it.
the Sunni is following the bloodline.
No,
The
no,
Sunni-
no,
have I got
no,
it?
the Shiites are the ones, the
All right,
Shiite
so I got
imams,
it.
the Shiite imams, down to the 12th imam, which is superior to that, I don't know the whole story now, but we've got a lot to talk about. But the Sunnis basically follow the traditional pathway. The Sunni means pathway, means like the halakha. It's the, what they believe is the tradition of Muhammad. The Shiites follow a tradition of Ali, because Ali also wrote a book or so, or two, and they kind of follow it. It was just slightly different. It's the same Islam, it's the same Quran, it's the same Allah, it's the same prophets even.
But it's not social class.
No, nothing to do with social class. You could have very, very, very wealthy. I mean, the Aga Khan, Shiite, breakaway Shiite. All the breakaway groups in Islam, by the way, are from Shiism. The Ismailians and the Ahmadians and including the Aga Khan, for example. No, they can be wealthy. Nothing wrong with that. Same with the Sunnis. Wealthy or poor. There's no social class differentiation whatsoever. This is purely the succession. Who should be the successor to Muhammad? And it's been going on for generations now. Okay, number two cause of strife in the Middle East is Sunni extremism. Now, you have the conflict between the Sunnis and the Shiites that always been on a back burner of Birmingham, but mainly in the area of Iraq. Iran, not even Iran, but mainly in the area of Iraq over the years. Here and there would break out, here there'd be a fight. Usually the Sunnis would massacre the Shiites. But Sunni extremism did not really exist in history until the 1920s, when a couple of Egyptians, Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb, traveled around. Qutb came to America, spent some time, was walking around the city in Minneapolis or Cincinnati or something. Anyway, and he was disgusted with what he saw. He said, look at the corruption. Look at the vulgarities here. Look at the women with their hands bare. He heard a woman singing. He looked up and he saw on a porch a young teenager was sitting there with a tank top or something, or short sleeves and dress or something, or slacks, and she was singing. And he was revolted by it. He felt noise from writing these books. He came back and he wrote a book. And in the meantime, this Hassan al-Banna, they got together, two of them, and they decided, okay, a couple 100 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, we were the rulers of the world. And we were the scientists, and we were the engineers, and we were the mathematicians. And if there was a Nobel Prize 400 years ago, every single winner in every category would have been an Arab Muslim. But something happened. And as the world advanced, mainly Europe, they kind of regressed, or they stayed where they were. And it was probably because Islam itself is not open to new ideas or new formats. So they said, look, we've got to go back to the basics. We've got to go back to the basics and to, start from scratch. Go back to the pristine period of Muhammad and the caliphs immediately after, what they call the righteous caliphs. And they created the Muslim Brotherhood. And we're going to see in a minute the difference between Al-Qaeda and the others, but almost every terrorist group in the world today, Islamic terrorist group, I know that the White House doesn't call them that, but they are, the Islamic terrorist group is spawned by the Muslim Brotherhood. 1924 and onwards. They've got a strict code, they've got a strict code of action, and they're intolerant. The fact that ISIS right now is destroying ancient monuments is all part of the doctrine of the Muslim Brotherhood. They want to destroy Morsi wanted to destroy the pyramids and the Sphinx when he was the president of Egypt. Why? Because they want tourists to come and be in awe at the Sphinx and the pyramids. No. You come to Egypt, you be in awe of Allah. Not something a man made. Not something humans made. Not something that was built during the time of the Jahiliyyah, what they call, the ignorant period before Muhammad. The ignorant period before Muhammad. So, they established the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood is the father of almost every single terrorist group, extremist group, whether it's Taliban, whether it's ISIS, whether it's both Fatah and Hamas, whether it's... these are all based on the doctrine of the Muslim Brotherhood. Financed by them many ways, many times, certainly doctrinated by them, certainly trained by them, and the ideology. If somebody's coming to blow up a mall over here, it's because of the Muslim Brotherhood doctrine. And that's something we've got to understand. Muslim Brotherhood is that you cannot negotiate with them. They've got one object and one object only. And it's very simple. They don't want to convert us all to Islam, on the contrary. On the contrary. Because a Muslim in an Islamic run state does not pay taxes. So how are you going to run the state? The taxes are collected from the non-Muslims living as citizens, or living as second-class citizens in that state. But they want everybody to behave in the world according to Sharia, according to the latest version of one truth that Allah gave first to the Jews in a book, then to the Christians in a book, and finally the last final prophet, the Hatam al-Nawi, they say the last signature of all the prophets, to Islam. So we all have to behave. That is their goal. They don't want to convert us. They want us to pay their basically submit to their way of life. Yes, they want the women to wear the head coverings and all the arm coverings. Yes, they want us to be, eat only halal food. Yes, they want us to obey certain, norms and behavior patterns. But they don't want to convert us. They want to rule us.
But if you don't pay the dhimmi tax, then they will kill you.
Oh, they will kill you. Yeah. They have three choices. They give you three choices. So yeah.
Simple question. If I were a child in some central part of Iraq, how is it determined whether I'm Sunni or Shia?
Your family, your parents.
You're going to be the same regardless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now you can renounce it later, childcare. You can renounce it later and say, I was wrong and all that, and now I'm a Shiite. It's a question of how convincing you are. It's a question of how convincing you are. So anyway, so that's number two. But that isn't the only reason that we have the problems now. So we've got Shia, Sunni rift, and we've got Sunni extremism from the 1924s on.
You said there were going to be three choices.
What? Three? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Today, what ISIS is doing, when they enter a town or when they enter a military base, Syria and Iraq, they basically go according to the instructions Muhammad gave in every war that he fought, in every conquest, as he expanded the conquest of the Islam. And he said, look, you go to that village, you give them three choices. Convert, in other words, become a Muslim, take the oath. And by the way, all you have to do is say one sentence. In Arabic, there's no deity but Allah, and Muhammad is his only messenger. In Arabic, it's La ilaha illallah wa Muhammadur Rasulullah. Technically, I just converted. I haven't. That's all you have to do. Only say the Shahada. And we'll come back to this later on and answer your question, which I'm sure it's going to come up. So you can convert, or you can agree to continue with your own religion, but become a second-class citizen, a dhimmi, which means basically Muslims can push you around. You don't have any rights. You've got very few rights. You have some rights, but very few rights. And you have to pay a head tax, a jizya, which is a chunk of your income every year. They joke around that they call it a head tax because they say, well, we're allowing you to keep your head on your shoulders for another year. But it's a heavy tax. The jizya, now, there are different categories, but so you give them a choice. Convert, jizya, dhimmi, or the sword. Now in several battles, Muhammad entered and told them, oh, you know that village down there? Those are really nasty guys. Just the sword. Go in, kill everybody. That's Muhammad. And they are following his orders. Say, hey, Muhammad is the perfect person, the perfect human. We just that's what he did. Why shouldn't we do it? And that's why we're seeing that cruelty. The burning of live people. The taking of a baby from its parents' hands. Cutting off its head and then handing the body back to the father. That is what they do. That's ISIS. And that's what I'm not saying the Shiites do it also. This is what they do. So, and this is exactly the way it was done according to Hadith in the Muhammad's wars, according to the scripture. So, that's number 2. Number 3 is desert culture. Okay, desert culture. Not just sitting by the camel in the desert. Desert culture is an interesting culture because in the desert there are not a lot of hotels. They're not so hosting and honor, the honor system, and not insulting somebody, not showing your shoes to somebody. There's a whole culture of, your enemy can walk in your tent, but you must host them graciously and provide them with water and food, and not even ask them where they're going for 3 days, or what they're doing there, or even what their name is. After 3 days, it's customary to give your name and where you're going, or leave, something like that. But there's a whole culture based on the scarcity of resources in the desert. But like I said, also an honor system. For example, if a Bedouin in an area decides to go out on a walkabout, and they do that a lot, just leave for 2 weeks or a week or so and just walk about, take his camel, take his horse, whatever, and he takes all his belongings and he wraps them up in a blanket and he hangs the blanket from a tree in the middle of the desert there on the pathway. If only Bedouins are in that area, it'll be there when he comes back. Nobody will touch it because it belongs to another man. Same way, he can leave his wife in the tent, go about. Bedouins will not in any way harm her. There's very strict laws about that also. But non-Bedouins, who knows? So the culture, you've got to understand, coffee. The importance of coffee in the psyche of the laws of the desert. You drink coffee with somebody, you're equal to them. And there are the 3 cups of coffee and the 3 cups of tea, and it's a whole ceremony. The main thing is, though, you do not insult a Bedouin. And that's part of the law of the desert. So the laws of the desert, the cultural laws, the mistakes that we Americans have made, that you walk into a house with boots on, you don't do that. You don't do that. You wouldn't do that in a Japanese house. You don't do that in an Arab house. It's just certain things, and we kind of trample all over the culture. Not just us. I mean, the Europeans, the Italians, the French, everybody. And that they couldn't do anything because we had the guns. We were the conquerors. But that's kind of a thing. Arab to Arab, if they cut a deal, it'll be a deal, maybe. There's certain nuances to a deal also, like the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which Muhammad made with the Quraysh tribe, which happened to be a Jewish tribe, and it was a 10-year ceasefire. Hudna. which he broke after 4 years as soon as he realized he had enough forces to attack. So you got to be careful about treaties, about deals, whether it's with Arabs, with Iranians, you know, they say.
Or about oil, or about nuclear.
Yeah, about all kinds of, you know, Bean always had a great sentence. He used to say, well, they said, or he said, so he said. Big deal. Doesn't mean a thing. Okay, so the next cause of conflict in the Middle East is artificial countries. Now, let's look at a map of the Middle East before World War I. Pretty much the area of the Turkish Empire, right? Now, anybody see a country there called Egypt, or Saudi Arabia, or Iraq, or Iran, or Tunisia, or Libya? Anybody? I don't either. There were never those countries. Those countries never existed. There was never an Iraq any time in history. There was Mesopotamia. There was the Arabian Peninsula. There was never a country called Saudi Arabia or Jordan. Egypt at times, in different sizes and shapes, but even then it wasn't called Egypt all the time. But the Turks had governorships in the cities where they governed a certain region, or Vilaya. And the governors were appointed mainly by the Turks from the local warlords. They took the roughest, toughest, meanest one that everybody hated, made him the warlord, because they knew he'd collect the taxes, and he'd pay the taxes to the capital, because otherwise he'd lose his job and his head. So, I mean, the Turks were very, very strict about that. But there were no countries. World War I, like we said, oil was discovered in a lot of areas here. The victorious armies decided to carve up the Middle East and to create democracies, if not democracies, at least monarchies, but, you know, based not on where the people lived or what religion they were or what ethnic group they were. No, based on where the oil was. So what we got was this. And you've got countries like Morocco, Algeria, Mauritania, Libya, Egypt, even Egypt, Saudi Arabia. These are countries that were put together artificially by putting people that never got along with each other. They were desert tribes or desert communities that fought with each other all the time and then worked out a ceasefire, no sharing of the water or whatever. But they, you know, you bump them together, you point the, you'll be the king, and expect them to function. And they never actually did merge. You ask a Jordanian, what are you? He will not say, I'm a Jordanian. He said, I'm a member of this or that tribe, or this or that clan, or this or that family. The Egyptians are a little bit different. They do have some sort of a nationalistic, historical culture, but nobody else. An Iranian will never say he's an Iranian. He might say he's a Persian, but he'll usually say, I'm a Yazidi, I'm a Persian, I'm a Yazidi, or I'm a Azeri. How many of you know that the Grand Ayatollah today is not an Iranian? He's from Azerbaijan. He's done. That's a different story. Okay. Anyway, so these countries never existed, and we're now forced to live together, hate each other, and started fighting immediately. Especially when they combine Shiites and Sunnis, when they combine Arabs and non-Arabs, when they combine white Arabs and black Arabs. And if you think there's bigotry and you know, in this country, boy, is there racism amongst the Arabs. Oh yeah, the white Arabs are considered, you know, you ask about superiority of the upper class and envelope, but white Arabs are considered more the upper class, or the better, lack of a better word, better race. I'm sorry, I'm not, you know, that's what they claim. And darker Arabs, because they came from Africa, they were slaves. And they were considered that, and to this day, for example, Bandar bin Sultan, the former ambassador of Saudi Arabia to this country, his father never recognized him as an heir apparent to himself, even though he's now in line for the kingdom, because he wasn't the son of one of Sultan's wives. He was the son of one of Sultan's black concubines. And so he never attained, even if he was an Air Force officer, and he got in with the king and all that, and he was good friends with the Americans. So this is a cultural thing in the Middle East that you have to understand if you want to understand what's going on. So, these countries were created artificially after World War I, 1919, 1920, 1921. And then finally the Arab Spring. the Arab Spring is a cause of the conflicts going on now? You bet. Because countries are ruled by dictators, by autocrats, by dictators, and they were doing very well, thank you. They were not nice, they were cruel, but they kept things quiet, and especially they realized the danger of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was outlawed in every single country where the crowds demanded democracy, demanded the right to vote, demanded, and we and the Europeans, or the Americans, Europeans, pushed for it to get it, what?
Oh, so we fermented it, yes.
No, and encouraged it.
Right.
And encouraged them to get rid of these dictators. They were bad, but they were ours at least. We were paying them. Most of them were on CIA salaries. But they demanded and they wanted democracy. And yeah, they got rid of some nasty people, but nasty people who were pro-America and nasty people who realized early on the danger of the Muslim Brotherhood. When Nasser overthrew King Fahd, anyway, the king of Egypt. In 1952, what?
Mubarak.
Nasser?
Oh, Mubarak.
Farouk was.
Farouk, sorry, that's it. I had seen you moment there. And with King Farouk in Egypt in 52, he used the Muslim Brotherhood in the rebellion, but then immediately turned against them, arrested them, tried them, and he hanged Hassan al-Banna. And he had Sayyid Qutb killed. And they realized that the Muslim Brotherhood was a danger to their monarchies and to the stability of the country. Because if anything, the Muslim Brotherhood does not like its stability. Islam, Allah will sort things out. We'll wait it down. So we got rid of Ali bin Ali in Tunisia, Salah in Yemen, our good friend Gaddafi, Libya, and of course Hosni Mubarak. And we got elections. And in every single election, who won? The Muslim Brotherhood, because they, or the party, because they, somebody over here didn't think 3 steps ahead, or was advised not right way, didn't realize that the only organization that had the grassroots ability to bring out the vote, and also that had thousands of political offices, recruiting offices, every mosque was the Muslim Brotherhood. So instead of a Arab Spring put in democracy within one election cycle, and there hasn't been another one since, by the way. We've got a Islamic winter. The Arab Spring turned into Islamic winter, and this is pretty much the Ennahda party in Tunisia, and you saw what happened there just recently. That this was people. By the way, who did it? Who admitted to doing it? The attack on the museum, which killed the 20 tourists yesterday. It was the ISIS. ISIS said that they did it. Why? Because the Ennahda party, even though they're the Muslim authority party, first of all, they've all split up already, and Tunisia's a mess. But they said they are not religious enough. They're not fulfilling the promise of Sharia law and of everybody covering up, etc. So they said they're going to do more.
I have a question. Right from that part of the world,
yeah,
you have Morocco there.
Sorry?
Morocco.
Yeah.
It's an Islamic country.
Yep.
Very peaceful.
Yep.
Jews live there in peace.
Absolutely.
They appreciate it. Why is ISIS not going there? I mean,
they are. They're trying. But the king of Morocco, King Mohammed VI, is very cautious. He's not giving them. He did not declare elections there, and he's been very careful about it. They're trying. Look, the goal of ISIS is to take over the whole of North Africa. Morocco right now, you're right. It's a much more of a cultural, much more European community, and it's got the support of France. It's got very strong support from France. It will come there. It will come there. But I think that Hassan V in the beginning, and now his son, they're doing a pretty good job of keeping it quiet. But the Jews in Morocco are scared and they're leaving. Yeah.
I was going to affirm that one of the guys I communicate with is in Morocco. His family's there. And there are several different events taking place.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it on the news, but it is
There
rising.
have been a lot. There have been events. There have been events against the Jews there.
Right.
The Christians have
Right.
been killed there. They are fighting back, but it's just a question of time before ISIS takes over the whole of North Africa, which is their goal, and they're doing it. Okay, so
Gil, in the museum in Tunisia yesterday, I heard that the parents of the chief rabbi of Italy were in the museum, and the husband and the father got wounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were tourists, and there was a tour boat, a cruise that was stopped, and most of the people that were injured were from the cruise. And that cruise line now said, all the cruise lines have now said they're not stopping in Tunisia anymore until further notice. So, and it'll come eventually to Morocco, I'm sorry. Anyway, so, okay, so we did that. Now, let's talk about what I was asked earlier about differentiating between the two organizations, two groups. First of all, Al-Qaeda versus ISIS. Both of them Sunni. Both of them followers of the Muslim Brotherhood doctrination. Both have the exact same agenda. The world has to be Sharia. But they've got different ways of doing it. And therefore they're not only not partners, they're actually rivals. And that's why it's important to understand, I'll show you the list in a minute, of which organizations belong to which. Al-Qaeda, established by Osama bin Laden, now led by Ayman al-Zawahiri, after bin Laden, I remember this bumper sticker that I always used to see that, only Allah can judge bin Laden, but our job is to arrange the meeting.
Amen.
Six did a pretty good job of it. So, they are anti-America. They are anti-Western culture. They're the ones who want to first and foremost not take over Africa and America, but to at least regain what they had in Europe. Because up until 1492, when the Jews were kicked out of Portugal and Spain, etc., the Arabs, the Muslims, the Caliphate was kicked out of Spain also. And they see that as the greatest historical disaster that happened, and they have to rectify that. It is not by accident that the first terrorist attack in Europe by Al-Qaeda was in Spain, in the trains. Okay, and they are against their goal, like we saw in Saudi Arabia, like we've seen in India, is to attack American targets, the coal, etc. That's what their goal is. They do not look for a territorial expansion. On the other hand, ISIS, which was born in Iraq as Al-Qaeda in Iraq under the command by a Jordanian named Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, was not even against America. I mean, Americans eventually killed him, but because he was betrayed. But it was formed in order to kill Shiites. That was their whole goal, to kill Shiites in Iraq. And like I said, it was originally Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Later, they moved to Syria. It was taken over by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, also known as the Butcher of Baghdad. There we saw, not long ago speaking. And it just continued the operation of the killing Shiites in Syria and in Iraq. First in Syria. And if other rebel organizations, Sunni rebel organizations were fighting Assad, wanted to join it, fine. If you didn't, get out of our way. You're in our way, we're going to kill you also. So most of them absorbed them, most of them joined in, most of them swore fealty to Abu Bakr. They'd enter a base, a big Syrian base, full of wonderful arms and weapons and planes and everything, and they'd take all the Shiites, take them aside in front of everybody else, have them kneel down and shoot them in the head. Just didn't ask questions, just shot them, killed them. Then they'd go to the others and say, officers, men, whatever, pilots, okay, you've got a choice. Join us or join them. And that's how they grew in numbers, and that's how they grew in weapons, and that's how they grew in popularity, and that's how they became this cachet organization that attracts young people. They got top internet, social media experts. They're doing a terrific job. It came out recently that when we see the executions, the beheadings of these people in a line or one at a time, or the Americans, they say, how come they didn't even look scared? Were they drugged? No. A recent defector, not defector, guy was actually saved from an execution, said, no. For a week before the execution, they would bring us out, put us on the orange coats, and then pretend to execute, be mock execution, that actually fire guns but in the air or had blanks, and then bring us back, and then bring us back. And on the day of the actual killing, they'd say, it's going to be just another exercise, but this time we're going to do it for the video cameras. Okay? They never saw the first real beheadings. They thought it was just going to be a sham. And that's why they kind of sat there and kneeled down and, suddenly they got their eyes yanked out and the throats slit. They did not know it was coming. He was so cruel that Ayman al-Zawahiri said, I don't think you could really be part of Al-Qaeda. Yeah, we're against Americans, but you're killing Muslims. We're not killing Muslims, you're killing Muslims. Stop it, or tone it down. And I don't know if his answer was in Arabic or in English or in Farsi, but it was something equivalent to what Ayman al-Zawahiri can do to himself if he can do it. And at that point, Ayman al-Zawahiri, after warning him twice in letters and writing, said, okay, you kicked the organization out of Al-Qaeda. So from that moment on, it was no longer Al-Qaeda in Syria and Iraq, but it became the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. ISIS. Although the last S is not Syria, it's Sham, which means the Levant, which is the area of Syria, Iraq, part of Turkey, Israel, Jordan, and even a little bit down in Saudi Arabia. It's an area that traditionally is called the Levant, or the Sham, in Arabic. And it's a known territory in the area. So it's the Islamic State in Sham. Why is it called ISIL over here? Why did some people consider it called the Levant? I don't know. Maybe there must be some political thing over here, but whatever. So anyway, they are not part of Al-Qaeda. So now let's see which organizations are attached to who. Al-Qaeda, ACAP, that's Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. That's where al-Waqi was located. That's where the panty bomber and the shoe bomber came from, and others are coming out from. There it includes Akim, the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. Maghreb is North Africa. So all the attacks, the attack in Tunisia was Akim. Okay, this is Al-Qaeda. Sorry, it was ISIS. Sorry, it was ISIS, but it was a group that broke away from Akim and worked with the Haqqani network in Pakistan. The Haqqani network in Pakistan, they now belong to Al-Qaeda. Of course, the Taliban belong to Al-Qaeda. Lashkar al-Taiba, the LET, those are the ones who are trying to merge between the Muslims in India and the ones in Pakistan, and they're the ones that did the attack in Mumbai. The LET, they're Al-Qaeda. Al-Shabaab, Somalia, the ones you've seen, the ones who take the girls, and also Boko Haram in Nigeria. They also kidnap children, use them as suicide bombers. We've seen that several times. ISIS, you've got the Tehrik al-Taliban. This is a breakaway group from the Taliban that decided that Al-Qaeda is not bad enough. They want all the fun that ISIS is giving them. There's a lot of money there also. Tehrik al-Khalifat. This is the forces of the Caliphate. This is in Lebanon. A group in Lebanon that they say we joined because of the Caliphate. We believe in the Caliphate. We believe in that there's a time for the Caliphate to be reestablished. We believe in this guy. By the way, every group has to swear fealty, absolute obedience to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And if they break that, or if they don't do it, or if they're caught not exactly behaving accordingly, they're immediately killed. They tolerate absolutely no disobedience. If foreigners who come and fight in Syria for one of these groups, if they want to go home, they're killed. They want to go home. Jamaat al-Akhbar, Jamaat al-Akhbar is a main group in Jordan. There are others. Ansar Beit al-Maqdis. This is the group in Egypt, actually in Sinai, which actually it means the forces of the temple, using the Hebrew version of the word temple. Boy, didn't they say? Aren't they saying that Jews don't have any connection with Jerusalem and there was no temple or whatever. Okay, whatever. But those are the ones in Sinai. Those are the ones that are causing the Egyptians a lot of problems. They just had a big attack that killed 23 soldiers there. And Jundul Khalifa, that's another Jordanian group. Islamic Youth Shura Council. That's all of the Middle East, and that's connections to the Islamic groups over here in the States. The Abu Sayyaf group, that's in the Philippines. And the Sunnis Al-Bek Brigade, again, it's a group that was part of Al-Qaeda in Lebanon, and has now joined them. And the Sons of the Call for the Tawheed and Jihad, that was one of the original Al-Qaeda groups, and once again, they have broken away and they've joined ISIS. The difference between, as far as America is concerned, again, anti-Americans don't give a hoot. Now, in Lebanon, in Syria, there's a group called the Al-Nusra Brigade, yes, sorry. The Al-Nusra Front. The Al-Nusra Front is 100% Al-Qaeda, under the command of Ayman al-Zawahiri. And Ayman al-Zawahiri said, okay, we've got to start attacking America. As a matter of fact, we've got to repeat what Osama bin Laden did, but in spades. You know, to the power of 10. More deaths, more killings, and more attacks. How do we do that? We do that by getting around their defenses. Dropping planes, but the security of the planes is so good right now. And at the airports, well, what if we recruit blonde, blue-eyed Americans with American passports that can basically, go and come and are not suspicious, not suspect, and get through security, etc. And that's what they're doing. It's called Khorasan. The group inside the Nusra Front is called Khorasan. And the Khorasan group is 100% English-speaking, Europeans, some of the French also, Germans, Swedes, and Americans. And they come there and they preserve their passports. They're given ways to hide from security and from surveillance, etc. They're trained for one thing and one thing only. First of all, they're radicalized. They're turned to Muslims. They're radicalized, and they're told that for the jihad, you're going to be martyrs. And they agree to become suicide bombers. And they're trained for it. And the method that's going to be used is the same guy who invented the shoe bomb that didn't work so well, and the panty bomb that didn't work so well, has pretty much improved his system, his process, and he is now working with Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. No, I'm sorry, he was. He's now transferred. He was transferred to Pakistan, and now he's transferred to the Khorasan unit. And he's devised an explosive that can be inserted into the body, cannot be detected. It's a gel that cannot be detected. It could be either in the form of breast implants or simply you fill up the colon, you fill up the intestines with it. And it cannot be detected, but it can be detonated. And he actually tried it out on a Saudi Arabian prince. And the prince there was a line, an assembly line, and a rope line, and was shaking hands. And this guy went through every single metal detector, nothing, nada, didn't register anything at all. He had it pretty much up the wazoo, the explosive. And as he got right up to the prince, and he shook his hands, it was detonated probably by somebody by remote, by a very tiny detonator that was in there that couldn't be detected by somebody who was watching. And unfortunately, the bomber did not calculate the direction of the blast. So the prince was slightly injured, but the bomber launched himself through the roof of the tent. So he's improved on that now. He's improved on that now, and that's a problem, because you're going to have a nice couple, lovey-dovey, blonde, blue-eyed Americans, perfect American accent, and maybe typically, oh, we had a great time here, and they're going in, they're on a plane, and they're hugging and kissing, and they're making noise and all that, and suddenly, boom, they blow themselves up.
Do you feel that that's going to be on major airlines or any airline?
Ayman al-Zawahiri's orders were, we've got to do better than 9/11. We've got to do 9/11 squared. or it's the power of 10, as he said once. Yeah.
Now, wasn't recently Boko Haram swore allegiance to ISIS?
Yes. Yes.
This was,
yeah. We're seeing, well, elements. Boko Haram split up, broke up. Elements did swear allegiance to ISIS. Others remained there. There's a lot of things going on. Another large group. As a matter of fact, the Jabhat al-Nusra is right now negotiating with ISIS, which means Khorasan soon comes over to ISIS. ISIS, we said up till now, is not really anti-American. It's not out to kill Americans. It's out to gain ground, secure the caliphate, establish the caliphate, and from there launch into Europe. And from Europe, maybe to North America. That's down the road. Their goal is not necessarily against them. America's a great Satan, and killing Americans is a little extra bonus. But that is not their main goal. That's the goal of Al-Qaeda.
How do they govern and how do they get their money to operate?
Okay, how do they govern and how do they get the money to operate? And,
You got oil.
well, today ISIS is the largest, richest, best equipped, best trained, best commanded terrorist unit that the world has ever seen. Terrorist organization. The money is because when they entered Mosul, they robbed the bank, literally. They went into a vault, they took all the money out. Every time they take a town, before they kill people, they have them pile the money up, or they collect the money and they take it. All the jewelry, etc. They have oil wells, they have exports, they have refineries.
tax system.
What?
A tax system.
A tax system, yeah. If you're not paying your jizya, you lose your head. But they've got a lot of money, and people are coming in, people are donating. And very wealthy Muslims are, hedging their bets. We don't have to take over, they won't take over, but you know something? Let's be friends with them. Including the Emir of Qatar, who was recently in the White House, and who supports Hamas, for example. So they've got money, they've got organization, they've not yet gotten exactly how to rule a whole caliphate, how to make the trains run and the electricity work and all that kind of stuff, pick up the sewage, collect the garbage, but that they're working on. They've got the whole villages join them, including the administrators. So they'll get it. That's not what they're worried about right now. And they're not really worried about American airstrikes or the coalition airstrikes because they're not harming them. Yeah, they'll kill a few dozen here, a few dozen there, but it's not really making a dent. There was a chance when they could have taken out almost the entire ISIS formation when they were driving down from Syria along the roads to Iraq. They were on two roads. And for some reason, although there were recommendations to do it, it wasn't done. Okay? Yeah? I'm sorry.
Al-Zawahiri, if we found out Osama bin Laden killed him,
yeah,
and Al-Zawahiri took over, why are Americans not going out and finding Al-Zawahiri? He has to be right there in Pakistan, not too far.
Who?
Al-Zawahiri.
That's an excellent question. Excellent question.
Why
He's protected by the Pakistanis.
Huh?
He's being protected by the Pakistani intelligence.
But so was Osama bin Laden.
Aha. And I don't know what they're talking. Remember, Pakistan's got nuclear weapons. And everybody around the Middle East right now is looking for them because of Iran. Every Sunni Muslim country, because, by the way, when Iran develops nuclear weapons, the first target's not going to be Israel. Not even the second or third. The first target's going to be Saudi Arabia.
And Saudi is getting bombs from Pakistan. Saudi is getting atom bombs.
And Saudi's already got two of them. Saudi Arabia paid for the Pakistani bomb.
Yes.
And the condition was that a few of them got Saudi Arabia written on them. They were stored in Pakistan, but I understand that as soon as that report came out a few months ago, that Iran was about 6 weeks or 8 weeks before going hot, as it was back last November, the Saudis took delivery. They've got the missiles, they've got the delivery systems, they got them from South Korea, from North Korea, and they bought them, and they've got the technicians. Now, they're not going to aim those missiles against Israel either. That's against Iran. This is the Sunni-Shiite rivalry. This is what this is all about, really. But by the way, before I take another question, because I know some people are kind of looking to watch this, but I just want to mention one thing. How many people here are running for office? Running for office. 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. 4. Any more? Well, I just want to say something about a good friend of mine, Yoram. And I've known Yoram for years now. I don't know how many of you know it, but he's an Israeli paratrooper. He served in the Israeli paratroops. He served in the Israeli Air Force. He served in the American Air Force. He's an American citizen, and he's certainly, in my opinion, if I make a plug over here, because I'm in friendly company over here, as far as I'm concerned. The independent school district needs somebody like Yoram, and I hope this won't be just limited to this, because you also need him in Austin and need him later on in Washington. That's my point, and I know very well. Full representation. Anyway, yeah, let's go on.
Are all the groups, whether Al Qaeda or ISIS, are they all Sunni?
Yes. Yes. Al Qaeda, ISIS. The only Hezbollah group you know about, which your name will recognize, is the only Shiite group you'll know about and recognize is Hezbollah. There are others, but Hezbollah is the main one. Yes.
In your opinion, what's your
Sheriff, right? You're running for sheriff.
Yes, I am. What's your assessment of the threat that these groups represent to our communities here in the United States?
Okay, excellent question, and a very valid one. I would say the biggest threat is anybody affiliated with Al Qaeda, because Al Qaeda wants to attack America, the malls and the shopping centers, the planes, the transportation, the water systems, the electricity systems, and I would look for, like I said, the Khorasan group, because those are the ones being trained to come back over here as Americans, lay low, get the order, and operate as not as lone wolves, but as sleeper cells. According to information that I've received, including from local authorities here, the sleeper cells are already here. They're trained, they're ready, they're here, they're just waiting for the order, for the command, and it will be not one attack like the one in Tunisia, or two like in Paris. It's going to be multiple, because Al Qaeda likes multiple attacks. And, Israel is used to it. You walk into a store in Israel, or you walk into a mall in Israel, a supermarket, and the first thing they say is, are you carrying? And if you say yes, you show them your license, your carry license. Fine, no problem, come on in. They'll ask a woman to open her bag. Not because they want to see what kind of stuff she uses there, but no, just to see if there's a way. It's not only that, they don't look carefully, but the fact that they're opening the bag, somebody who's watching, who's collecting intelligence, is going to, they might see it, maybe we'll go somewhere else. And that's happened, by the way, where they tried to attack one restaurant, and tried to attack the mall in Haifa, and they were so worried about the guards there, they went into a restaurant nearby and blew themselves up in the restaurant and killed Israelis there. The matzah. Yeah.
My question is to you is, how do you feel we in the U.S. have allowed the Sharia law? I mean, you see this. I see postings every day of another town here in the U.S. who've allowed this to take place.
How is it to be done? I think it's indifference. I think it's because they say, well, it can't happen here, and they don't know what's going on in Europe. I think the more we educate, that's what my organization does. We talk about, we do events to educate people about the threat of Sharia law over here, and the fact that these people, they've got to go. The Muslim Brotherhood organizations over here, whether it's CARE, whether it's the
CARE and what they're doing.
Yeah, there are a number of organizations, all of them established by the Muslim Brotherhood. You've got the Muslim Student Association, you've got CARE, you've got the Muslim Academic Association, anything like that. Anything that has the word justice in it, also, or freedom and justice. These have got one specific agenda. They want to get people elected to public office, first locally, then statewide, then national, and eventually change the Constitution to Sharia. There's a document, and if anybody wants it, I've got copies of it. I'll be happy to email it to you. I've even highlighted the points there. It's called the Document of Settlement. It was part of the FBI's evidence at the Holy Land Foundation trial here in Dallas. There in Dallas, and it was there, and I'll be happy to share it. It says we're going to set up these organizations, and it lists the organizations as these are already set up. These are the ones we're going to set up, and it says our objective is to get people to come and mingle in society, become Americans, mingle with your friends, have barbecues, have your children go to make nice to them, tell them you're Muslim, tell them Islam is peaceful, it's wonderful, but prepare. Join these organizations, get ready, train, wait, weight. And when we get critical mass, we'll change. We'll use the Americans, the exact words there is, we're going to use their own political, democratic system to change their miserable house, to bring down their miserable house.
We've got a fundamental philosophical challenge.
Yeah.
If we believe in freedom of religion, and if anything is couched in religion, we want to tolerate it because that's a part of how we were founded.
Absolutely. And
to say we're not going to allow Sharia law if it's couched in religion, we're now going against our freedom of religion.
Not really, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's a very good, excellent point. And I'll tell you why I don't think so. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. And if any lawyers can contradict this. But we were built by people who escaped from persecution and established over here. And the Constitution establishes freedom of religion, and it's got the non-establishment clause, which means the government cannot create a religion, can establish a religion, and everybody's free. But there's also a question about sedition. Now, the Constitution is a living document. Sharia law, according to Islam, trumps state law. As a matter of fact, this is an interesting observation here. I know it's late, but it's worth it. It's worth it. What? It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it.
You can leave if you want.
I can sleep late tomorrow. No, it's worth it. The Islam, the whole thing about the countries, about not being any country before, there were no countries for one simple reason for over 1,000 years, because Islam does not recognize borders. There is no such thing as states. You are not a Jordanian, you're a Muslim. You are not a Turk, you're a Muslim. You're not an Egyptian, you're a Muslim. You're a member of the Ummah. The Ummah is the body of Islam. And Shia, Sunni, doesn't matter. You're a member of the Ummah, the body of Islam. And there are no borders, and there are no boundaries.
But what about swinging Texas deal?
Wait, I'll come to that in a minute.
And the tribunals.
Okay, so what they say therefore is, if you're a Muslim, your belief, and also Islam is not a religion. It's a total package way of life. It's not a it's a religion, and it's a secular set of laws, of rules and of laws that you have to be obeyed. And people understand that. It's a whole package. You can't separate. There's no separation of mosque and state in Islam, because it's only mosque, and there's no state. It's only the caliphate or the state of Islam. You remember, that's why it's become so attractive. So, in here, when we say they want to bring in Sharia, and they've tried it, they're trying to get courts over here to recognize Sharia, they're told, I'm sorry, but you can believe whatever you want, and if you want to settle things within your little group or something like that, as long as it's not an offense on the books, of offenses. As long as it's not a felony, as long as it's not a murder, as long as it's not a, something that you should be trying to go to jail for. But they don't accept that. They do not accept that. Do you know how many crimes within the communities of Islam go unreported over here? They don't want to report to the police, but they kind of settle it within the house. That means criminals are out there, and pedophiles are out there.
Like Italians in New Jersey.
Like Italians in New Jersey. Come on,
But in this country, state trumps religion.
I know.
We tolerate religion,
and we recognize religion. I know. And federal trumps state. So but they want to change that.
Right.
That's what's important, to get people like that. Not just to the ISDs. We make sure that their kids are taught.
Right.
Constitutions, and taught the rights and freedoms that America guarantees. I heard that today there was a Pledge of Allegiance that was given in Arabic.
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
That's the start. Yeah.
One or two questions.
One or two more questions. Okay. You'll take a minute to stop. Wait a minute. So, did I answer? Okay, 1, 2. Start you and then you. You'll be the last one.
Is there such a thing as a moderate Muslim, or do they all believe in the same thing through the...
Okay, is there such a thing as a moderate Muslim? Well, moderate is relative. Right. Relative to what? I would not use the word moderate. I would just use the word reformist, because just like Judaism reformed over the years, we really don't stone women now for adultery. If we did, we wouldn't have any women left. And we don't kill men just because they threw a football touching a pigskin. Okay, we don't do that anymore. We don't stone. So Judaism has evolved. We used to not be allowed to charge interest, but that we realized then that you couldn't do business whatsoever, so that was changed, and that was evolved by rabbis over time. So the Torah laws are not necessarily, even though they came from Mount Sinai, have been modified. Christianity has also been modified over the years to adjust to modern times and changes. Islam has not. Islam most of Islam is not. Islam has got 5 schools of jurisprudence. They all have to agree to change. Some changes have been made, but the main thing is this: that the reforming Muslims, and you see them on television, and you see, and you hear, if you watch the movie Honor Diaries, I certainly recommend it. We've got it. I'll be happy to show it in any organization. I'll bring it up here if you want. It's very important because it's all about how females are treated in the Islamic society and the culture. And it's not anti-Islam. It's it's needing to mind. These are women who are courageous. They're coming out. They're telling the stories about female genital mutilation, about how they were treated, about how they were sold as children into marriages they didn't want, and how to rebuild against them. Including here in the States. This is happening here in the States also, and in Canada, and it shows it in the movie. More than happy to show it.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
All right. How about coming back for part 2?
Yeah, amen.
Very
Yeah.
serious. Now, let's
One more last question.
Yeah, one right here. Right
Yeah.
here.
Well,
Last question.
Under our American constitutional system, I think we could fairly characterize Islam and Sharia as a racket rather than a religion. Because if they say you got to pay to play, that's extortion.
That's their way of taxation.
That's what?
That's their way of taxation.
I told you, Islam is not a religion. It's a total package way of life, and whoever does not behave that way, whatever you believe, is considered, the opposition. But again, isn't that the role of the Attorney General to make those determinations?
Good luck.
we do have a
Good luck.
round of applause.
Well, next month I'm going to be in Israel from, I'm going from the 8th till the 18th, but we can work out something.
Let's have a part 2, and we'll define it, the parameters of it, and maybe more sense of what should we do, or how can we prepare ourselves, or
delighted to.
something of that
The
nature.
main thing is to the ballot box. The main thing is make sure
Yes,
who
sir.
you're voting for. Yeah.
You kept saying all the way through that in a minute you'll get to Sweeney, Texas. And
Yeah.
you never
Oh
got
yes,
to
okay.
Sweeney, Texas.
Quickly, very quickly. One of the branches of Al Qaeda has set up around the United States a number of training areas for Muslims. They're called either in Sweeney it's called, I think, Islamburg, and in other places it's called Muhammadburg, etc. Or maybe I'm confusing that one with New York, where they come in, they do take private land, they buy private land. Some of it is being financed by another character called the Gulen Turks, but very wealthy Turk. But we won't go into him right now. We'll take him for the next time. But the thing is that on that land, which is private land, which is rural land, where everybody can go and shoot whatever they want, because that's what people do in Texas, they are training. They've got the cells here. They recruit the people here. They recruit them in the mosques in Richardson and other areas. They find out who they get. They take them out there. They train them. They prepare them. These are the sleeper cells that are here. They don't want them to go over to Syria and get themselves killed. No, they need them over here for the opposition. And it's all in that document. Next time I will bring copies of that document of settlement, which was, it's got stamped of the FBI, which was part of the evidence that was
I
at
think
the.
the Iran Constitution as compared to the U.S. things, they see that how drastically different they are.
Look, the U.S. There's nothing like the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah.
Maybe the Magna Carta, but there is nothing, and we've got to preserve it. This is our job over here. And the way they want to overthrow it is not through terror. The crazies want to do it through terror. Yeah. The way they want to do it, they want to say, get in the community, make friends, be nice. There'll be a local election for the ISD. There'll be some guy called Yoram Salman. No, we don't want him. We want Ahmed, somebody else, maybe. And they're going to start, and it's going to evolve that way, and they're going to get a critical mass in.
But it's already started. That's not.
Oh yeah, they are. It's a 50 to 60-year program, as you'll see. They're already about 20 years into it, and I can point successes right down the road, because people don't understand what Europe looks like today, and it's bad. I don't know if you've been there recently. It's bad. There are whole areas that that the Muslims have taken over, where the police can't come in, and they're spreading it. What? London, Paris, Barcelona, Italy, Belgium, and they've lost it. It's too late now. Without very drastic measures, which nobody's willing to do there. They prefer to pack up and leave and go to Australia, so I don't come here. But we are going to be like that over here, unless we are on the alert. Unless we're sure that whoever we elect, whether it's to a school district or to Austin or to Washington, check their policy.
Before we break,
yeah.
I think it would be instructive, just in a very brief summary, to share your feeling about the Israeli election and the upcoming Iraqi award.
I thought you'd never ask. Okay, very, very, very briefly. Look, I gave a live briefing about the elections on Sunday at one of the synagogues, and I had the exit poll results. And I said, look, it's too close to close. We don't know what it's going to be. And then I woke up at 2 in the morning, went on to the Israeli, internet, and landslide. So it's going to be, Bibi's going to be the prime minister, no question about that. It's going to be a pretty right-wing government, and he's going to be kind of shackled, but right now that's probably what Israel needs. He's also already appointed people from, for example, you see this guy over here, Kahalali, the party's Kachlon. He broke away from Likud because he is really a social welfare kind of guy, and he sees what's going on in Israel. The prices are too high. Israelis can't make it. They can't buy a house, and he's going to be the next finance minister.
Awesome.
And that's already been decided. We already know who the minister is going to be. So he's taking him in. So they're going to get help. The extreme right are probably not going to be in this coalition right now. He can do it without them. And yes, I think might not be, but this list will not be in. The Arab list. All 3 Arab parties merge into one list. They've got 13. It makes them the 3rd largest faction in the Knesset. They'll be in the opposition. They might be heads of a committee or 2 here and there. Fine. But I don't see Netanyahu taking them into the coalition. Now, what does that mean for relations with America? Very easy. The relations between the U.S. and Israel are terrific. Congress, the Senate, the Israeli government, the IDF and the Pentagon, excellent. The current Secretary of Defense, excellent friend of Israel, for this has been for a long time. They're still working on joint projects and exercises. Nothing has changed there. The personal relations between the president and the prime minister, that's going to be fun, because they hate each other's guts, literally. And you're going to see a lot of fireworks. You're going to see a lot of attempts by Obama to stick it to Netanyahu. Netanyahu's going to stick it to Obama just like he did in Congress. It's going to be, but it won't have any effect on U.S.-Israel relations.
Do you think it'll change the Jewish vote that votes so heavily Democrat in the country?
Let's go into that. Don't we start on that.
Okay, all right.
Iran.
What?
Iran what? The negotiations.
The negotiations, it's a bad deal, period. You heard Netanyahu? I agree with everything he said. By the way, I do give briefings in Dallas once a month. I give briefings in Dallas once a month, current events, Central Middle East updates, usually it's what's happened the last week or so and about everything, PowerPoints and everything. My next one is going to be on Monday, April 6th. Now usually it's on a Wednesday. It's on a Monday because I'm leaving 2 days later for Israel. But Monday, April 6th at the Jewish Community Center in Dallas.
Can we get a link on our website?
Absolutely. You can go to our, and I've got In the back there. I've got things I can give you that have got the dates and everything. You can link. I'll give you pins with our website and my email address. And go to the website. It's on the website, free, open to the public.
And I'll happen to say about half the people that attend there are not Jewish.
Yeah, half the people about the 100+ people that come every time are not Jewish, but all are strong supporters of Israel, strong Zionists, and that's what we need.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.